Today, I would like to present the topic which is entitled Another Empirical Application of the Similarity Confirmation Method in Evaluating the MADM Methods for a Type Selection Decision Case Before Bulk Purchase. I am Zhenyun Zhuang from NKUST in Taiwan. Another co-author of this study is Shu-Qin Chang from Chongyuan Christian University. Let's start with the background of this study. Despite it is short since the similarity confirmation method was proposed, we will also show the historical development of this method. The similarity confirmation method, or SCM in brief, was proposed for comparing the final results that are obtained using different MADM models. MADM stands for multi-attribute decision making. With the SCM method, several different MADM models used to solve the same decision problem in practice can be benchmarked by comparing their final results using this method. So, this method is very helpful when a new MADM model takes place, because we can show whether this new model is effective or not by comparing its results against those obtained from other methods which have been well known. The development history of the SCM method should have begun in 2018. In a study, the authors used AHP with GTMA and AHP with top Cs to rank a set of paper threaders. They found that the two final ROVs brought by these two methods are very similar using traditional vector-based measures. And then the study treated the ROVs using these two models as two statistical samples. Based on this treatment, they further used the Wilcoxon-signed rank test, or called the Mann-Whitney U-test, to establish an intangible measure and found that there is no evidence to show that the two ROVs are from non-identical populations. So it is very probable that the two samples are not from non-identical populations. This gives the supporting evidence for the similarity that is observed between the result of the two models using traditional measures. The reason behind finding the supporting evidence was that there is no well-known or widely accepted threshold to justify the observed similarity after the use of those traditional measures. We can compare these comparison logics. For example, there are two ROVs, the ROV using AHP with GTMA and the ROV using AHP with top Cs. The final ordinal ranks when we used separate methods for the same problem with 8 decision alternatives are shown on the left and on the right. The difference vector is computed in the middle. According to this difference vector, one may easily get the messages about similarity using the traditional measures, like the one-dimensional absolute distance and the two-dimensional Euclidean distance. Since using the traditional measures show that the two ROVs are similar, but there is no credible threshold to claim their similarity and to make this observation solid. The Wilcoxon-signed rank test, which is a non-parametric test in data analytics, was used to see if there are from non-identical populations. If the p-value of the test was less than 0.1, the previous observation would be questionable and the similarity is rejected. If they were not, there would be no evidence to place a dot on the similarity that was observed using traditional measures. And the p-value of the test should be an indicator to tell the degree to which their similarity is. Based on the former work, the more systematic SEM was formally proposed in 2019. It uses not only the Wilcoxon side rank test to see if the two ROVs are from non-identical populations, but also the KS test to see if the two ROVs are drawn from non-identical distributions. So, it is in fact a double insurance, which means that if the two ROVs are not from non-identical populations and not from non-identical distributions, and there is very little evidence to show that they are, then we gain confidence for the similarity that was observed using other methods. This is the core logic of the SEM, and it was used to confirm the similarities rendered in the results between the IFMADM method and the other two credible methods of AHP and TOPSIS in the 2019 study. Since these similarities are confirmed pairwisely for the same decision problem, the confidence is gained for the use of IFMADM, which is a later approach that still lacks of a wide range of applications in the real world. This study applied the SEM to another empirical decision solved using another set of MADM methods in an earlier study in 2017. The approach of AHP with GTMA was shown to effectively support and model a paper threader selection decision. In another earlier study in 2018, AHP TOPSIS was used to solve the same decision problem. In that study, the traditional tangible vector-based measures were used, and the authors proposed the idea to apply the non-parametric tests. But the systematic SEM was not applied. In this study, we used the dataset of the 2017 study, introduced both AHP TOPSIS and AHP-SAW to solve the same decision problem, and used the SEM in order to show that although the AHP-GTMA method is relatively new, it is also effective by reference to the other two credible methods. The lower part of the table is the normalized decision matrix of the datasets for the decision case, which has 8 alternatives to be ranked, including A1 to A8, and 7 criteria to be considered, including C1 to C7. For more detail, please see the 2017 paper that is quoted. Using AHP to calculate the criteria weight vector, or CWV in brief, is shown in the top row of the table. Then, based on the data in the former page, we use 3 methods: AHP-GTMA, AHP-TOPSIS, and AHP-SAW for the problem, and obtain 3 final ROVs. The calculation processes are skipped. These are not the focus of this study. This page shows the 3 ROVs obtained individually using the 3 methods mentioned above. These are ROV for AHP with GTMA, ROV for AHP with TOPSIS, and ROV for AHP with SAW. They lead to 3 possible difference vectors between each pair of them. Using the traditional measures, taking the element values in the difference vectors as the parameters, we have the one-dimensional absolute distance and the two-dimensional Euclidean distance between each pair of the ROVs. There are 2 observations for similarity here. First, both distances measured for either the AHP-SAW and AHP-GTMA pair or the AHP-SAW and the AHP-TOPSIS pair are lower than those measured for the AHP-GTMA and AHP-TOPSIS pair. The distance measured for the AHP-SAW and AHP-GTMA pair is tiny, but are the distance measured for another two pairs small enough to be justified as an indicator for similarity? As a consequence of using the SCM method, there is no evidence to show that the three ROVs are from non-identical populations, and there is no evidence to show that they are from non-identical distributions when they are tested pairwisely, except for the very little evidence showing that the ROVs between AHP-GTMA and AHP-TOPSIS are not similar. Such a result is almost perfect to show that the results obtained using these three methods are par, so that the effectiveness of the relatively new AHP-GTMA approach on solving the MADM problem is evident compared to another two credible approaches. Finally, let's discuss the implications and insights from this study. First, the similarity of the three models that are benchmarked here are cross-validated. This is important for model applications in the practice of MADM. Second, following the first point, we may confirm that AHP-GTMA, which is a relatively new approach, is effective too by using the systematic SCM method. Now let us summarize all of the p-values that are obtained during the experiments of this study and compare them to their traditional Euclidean distance counterparts. The relationships between the p-values and those distances are reasonable, since when we want to claim supporting evidence for the conclusion that two ROVs are very similar, we want the evidence to be far away from the two facts. Fact 1 is that they are from non-identical populations, and fact 2 is they are from non-identical distributions. So, there should be higher p-values. And simply one such observation can draw several lines for future research. For example, how do the distance between two ROVs correlate with the p-value of the tests made for them negatively? Besides, because the ranking result from using AHP-GTMA is shown more similar to that of AHP-SAW than to that of AHP-TOPSIS, it is worthwhile to explore other messages that are behind the ROVs. For example, the score vectors that are used to determine those ROVs. It is also worthwhile to consider some other credible MADM methods to compare, because SCM supports more pairs of methods to be compared. And this is to make the positive conclusion about AHP-GTMA more grounded. Finally, comparing the results using SCM against those using other recent new similarity measures is another future research direction. I sincerely thank you for the listening. If you have any question, please send an email to wayne@nkust.edu.tw or schang@cycu.edu.tw. Thank you once again.